Result Council of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, and we would now be starting our program as our chief guest has already arrived and we are making him wait. Thank you so much, sir, for waiting for us. May I now request our chief guest, Sri Naurangji Saini, Regional Director of MCA in Kolkata. May I request him to please come to the dais. Please give a big hand and welcome Mr. Saini, please. May I now request C.A. Nilayam Vikamse, Vice Chairman of the Corporate Law and Corporate Governance Committee of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, who is in Calcutta for this first two-day conclave after announcement of the rules by the government on 31st March. Sir, thank you so much for being here with us. Welcome, sir. May I now request our own Sumantra Guha, Central Council member and the member of the Corporate Law and Corporate Governance Committee of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. May I welcome you, sir, this morning. May I request my colleague Pramod Rungta, Vice Chairman, to be on the dais, please. Ladies and gentlemen, may I request everybody to rise on their respective places for Institute motto.
Yaesha supteshu jagrati Yaesha supteshu jagrati Kamam 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 Pursho nirvimanaha Tadeva shukram Tada Brahma Tadeva amritamuchyate Tasmin lokaha shetaha Sarve tadunatyadi kaschan Etadvaita
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, sincere apologies from the entire council for being late 15 minutes to start the program. Around 13 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, this program was conceived on 31st of March as soon as the rules for the set of rules for the most of the sections which were notified on 27th of March was conceived that let this be the first holiday of the April and coinciding with Saturday. We decided to host this first seminar, and I'm so happy that the Corporate Law and Corporate Governance Committee of the ICAI, led by Chairman S. Santana Krishnan, who has not been able to make to Kolkata this morning due to certain urgencies at Delhi. But however, Vice Chairman Nilesh Vikamse is here. They have lent all their support. They have given all the material which will be given to you in the booklet and have already been circulated by email to all the delegates who have registered till last evening in two tranches, day for yesterday and yesterday. Thank you so much, sir, for cooperating and allowing us to hold this seminar under your aegis, and all of support from our Mr. Sumantra Guho in Kolkata in coordinating and getting us all the support from the Delhi. Ladies and gentlemen, I should not deal with the subject, but then not more, but I am too much frightened by the way the rules have been announced, the provisions have been included, and have already been implemented from accounting year starting from 1st April 2014. It is not only auditors, but it also KMPs, where KMPs includes, of course, all CMDs, full-time directors, CEOs, and CFOs, and company secretary, and as well as auditors. It would not be exaggeration to say that the provisions have been draconian, and even the fine have been made 3 times the impact of the total financial impact, which somebody will be bringing it out. Each of the sessions have been designed not only to deal with this, but also to include basically the SME segment, which Mr. Nilesh Vikamse will be dealing in postal session, how the privilege regime of the private companies have been taken away with, and almost all the provisions have been made at par with the private company and the limited company. Of course, there's a difference between listed and unlisted companies, But time is not far, I am understanding, and from the internal sources which I had with the interaction with the council members day for yesterday in Delhi, the time is not far when once this gets implemented, once IFRS is in the offing with effect from 1st April 2016, on which Mr. Neeraj Vikamse and Shumantru will be able to give you light, that from 1st of April 2016 they will be applicable, and keeping in mind that the new government will be there and DTC and the GST will see the light of the day. Considering everything and in this dynamic atmosphere, these 2 days are just a tip of an iceberg, that we need to continually upgrade our knowledge, learn, relearn, and also and also apply the knowledge not for our practice purpose, but also so that there is a good governance from the client's perspective, as well as, since Mr. Naurang Sen is here, from the implementation perspective by the government. I am sure government must be facing a great difficulty, or like initial teething troubles in definitely implementing, which we can see from the first 14 days IMCA site was closed. It has been extended to 20th of April. Definitely this is necessary for a transition. But since law is evolving and there is a landmark regulatory changes in the history of the corporate era of India since 1956, the first law after so many years, after 6 decades or 6 decades and plus. And I think we need to gear up. Totally, the old act have been scrapped, and it has to be learned and unlearned by each and every one. With this initial remark, I thank you for giving an overwhelming response. 400 was our target, 425 has already been achieved. Thank you so much for being with us these 2 days. I request you to please make good of this time with all the speakers. We have lined up a question-answer session after the session. Maybe we may not be able to answer all the questions. May I request you to write down your queries, hand it over to the people on the stands on the both sides, so that we can keep on collecting queries in ahead for the sessions. Maybe at the respective speakers with the respective subject can be handed over. He will cover during his deliberation for your facilitation, and as well as to give you a better time utilization with the speakers. Sir, a couple of announcements before that. May I request you to please keep your mobile phone switch off so that your neighbors do not get disturbed. Around 1/3 of the participants have not given their emails into the registration. Please give your emails, because it's serving a couple of purposes, because you're getting valuable information at your tip. Second, we have started sending since I have taken over all the background materials prior to the seminar, before start of the seminar, at least 2 days before we are sending, so that you can have a look at your background materials before you come here, which we are also going to hand you over in hard copies, but then it is always better to read it nowadays. And thirdly, it helps in communicating so many other information which Institute is disseminating. In 10% of the registrations around, there are no phone numbers. Please give either landline or mobile number. In case of elderly members, may I request you to give your residence or office mobile landline number. Our office will get in touch with you. A continuous complaint had been there with the Institute that MCA site, this online payment site is not working. This time I can tell you 40% of the registrations as against 5% we have received through online. Out of this online, we have only e-banking facility. We do not have credit card swiping facility or credit card debit facility, payment through credit card or debit card. We are trying to change the model. We'll do it very soon. Hope by the next seminar we will do it. Advance registration, this time I'm so happy that 90% of that registration have come in advance. There's no spot registration, so we have been give you the best of facilities. Hope you will continue to do that. This corporate law conclave is one in the series. The second have been lined up for 23rd and 24th May at the same venue. This time, tomorrow's venue is different, because we thought that let it do a 2 venue, and somehow it was compulsory, because yesterday they were giving us a half of this auditorium, so it was not possible. So tomorrow is the at Taj Gateway at Ruby Connector, please note. And next is both the days at 23rd, 24th here. Then 14th of June and 28th of June is 3rd and 4th. 4 conclaves are already lined up, and the 5th and 6th are July and August. Your suggestions are welcome on the specific topics or in subject, how would you like to do it? In case you have any suggestions, any group which would like to continue as a workshop, we would be very happy to do that. But some members have to come forward, because what happens, we open the registration at time, and workshop we have a very, not a very good experience that people do not come up for registration. Ladies and gentlemen, one more small request. There is a tea being served till next half an hour. After this session break, please do not move out. We shall continue with the session, because only one speaker is there. He's flown from Bombay, and Mr. Khusro is already with us, so please take the benefit of his time. With this, I hereby again wish you a great time these 2 days. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Before we start the session, may I request our dignitaries to please come down and light the lamp and inaugurate the seminar, please. Ladies and gentlemen, we recognize the valued presence of our past council member, Sri G.P. Dokania ji, and also past chairman of the Regional Council, Mr. Santosh ji Jain. I'm not able to see any other. If they are there, please excuse me. And whosoever there in the past council, they are welcome to this seminar. Thank you so much. Over to my vice chairman, P.D. Rungta, for introduction of dignitaries.
Good morning to all of you. Friends, we have our chief guest, Dr. Naurang Sani is here. There is no need, I think, to introduce Regional Director Naurang Sani to this august house. All professionals knows that he is a Regional Director over here, Eastern Region, Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Just to inform to the house that he was the person instrumental in MCA 21, the government initiative for computerization. So with this, please give him a big round of applause and welcome him. And may I request Namrata Jodhani, please come forward. Namrata, is she there? Yeah. Present a flower bouquet on our behalf to welcome him. Next, friends, we have CA Nilesh Vikamse. He's a Central Council member. Again, no need to introduce him. He's a Vice Chairman of Corporate Laws and Corporate Governance Committee, and also the Chairman of Financial Reporting Review Board of ICAI. Apart of this, he is a member of so many committees and director in so many companies, including the director in the Federal Bank Limited. With this, please welcome him, Nilesh Vikamse, with a big round of applause. And may I request Tripti Goel, please come forward. Tripti? Yeah. Present a flower bouquet to Nilesh sir. Well, and next to him, we have our very own Sumantra Guha, Central Council member, and he's a member in Corporate Laws and Corporate Governance Committee, and also Vice Chairman of Committee for Capacity Building for CA firms and small and medium practitioners. With this, please welcome CA Sumantra Guha with a big round of applause. And I request Kavita Podar, please come forward. Well, thank you, Kavita.
May I request our Central Council member Sumantra Guha to please give his address.
Thank you, Subhash, and a very good morning to all of you. In fact, this place makes all of us, I think, very nostalgic, because this was the Great Eastern Hotel, the pride of Calcutta once. And I remember when we were young, in those days, test matches used to be played very frequently between India and some other countries, and people used to wait for those test matches to take place. And normally the foreign team that used to come used to stay in Great Eastern, and the Indian team used to stay in Oberoi Grand. So that was the way of scheme of things in the earlier days. And then, of course, this hotel was dismantled, taken over by the Lalit Group, and it is very nice to see that they have built such a beautiful structure. And I must thank the chairman EIRC for conceiving this idea of having this conference over here. In fact, after this it was newly laid out. I think only 6 months ago it was newly laid out. This is my first occasion to come and speak from this forum. Friends, Subhas was telling that we need to learn and relearn. I think we need to learn, unlearn also, and then relearn the New Companies Act 2013, because the entire set of sections have changed. Everything has changed. And it is more of a rule-based legislation now that we find, which has taken place now. And we need to do a lot of learning, because the draft rules were there for a long time, and it got notified. Most of them got notified in the last week of March. Of course, the CSR rules got notified earlier in February. And of course, the sections also, most of the major sections have got notified. So it's time for learning. It's time for learning IFRS also, Ind AS also, because as the roadmap suggests that the Ind AS may get effective from April 2016, and as far as DTC is concerned also, as he rightly said, that this is also coming. So entire set of learning, unlearning and relearning process has to start, not only in the Companies Act front, but also on the direct taxes front, as well as in the accounting front. Friends, statistics say that in 1956, there were 30,000 companies in 1956. And now we have around 11 lakh companies in 2013-14, like that. So the numbers have swelled enormously. And I think the government really felt the need to make this Companies Act more dynamic. And that is why this new Companies Act was conceived and introduced. In fact, I still remember, it was in the year 2004, I was the Vice Chairman of the EIRC. At that time, Sri P.C. Gupta was the Minister of Corporate Affairs, when the concept paper 2004 was released for the New Companies Act, and we had a meeting at Park Hotel. In fact, Mr. Gupta had come to the EIRC to deliver, not only he delivered a lecture, we also stayed for half a day and listened to all the deliberations about the concept paper 2004. And it is good to see that after a span of 8-10 years, after a lot of efforts, this Companies Act could see the light of the day. But friends, statistics also say that in 1956, when the Companies Act was passed, it was one of the finest pieces of legislation, actually, that we ever had. One of the finest pieces of legislation. And it took 3 years in the Parliament, where the parliamentarians discussed point by point, clause by clause, section by section. It took 3 years in 1956 for the Companies Act to be passed. But of course, now the style of functioning is different. Parliament doesn't have much of time. Things go to the select committee where they deliberate and then bring it back to the Parliament. But at least we expected that there should be more deliberations on the New Companies Act 2013 as well. But unfortunately, it didn't take place because due to paucity of time for whatever reason. But when I was looking at this, that in 1956, from 1953 to 56, the Parliament discussed threadbare to pass that Companies Act 1956. And let me tell you also, we didn't have major amendments in the Companies Act, unlike in other legislation. We didn't have major amendments in the old Companies Act 1956. It was such a wonderful piece of legislation. And the parliamentarians from all parties, across the parties, sat together and passed that legislation. Unfortunately, it was not there, and as you all know that there are many disgruntled people also as far as the new legislation is concerned and things like that. Let us not go into all this. We will be discussing threadbare also in the next 2 days as to how the Act has shaped up and how the rules have also shaped up and how we need to face such challenges and opportunities. But in spite of that, there are some good things that have happened in this New Companies Act also. We shouldn't discard the good things that have happened. That is, to my mind, I've jotted down a few points which I felt I would share with you, which are the good points that have happened in this New Companies Act. That is, the whistleblowing has been reduced for the first time. Whistleblowing is now in the Act as such. Then a provision of one woman director for certain classes of companies that has been introduced by the New Companies Act, which is a good provision that has been introduced. The financial years have now been made uniform, April to March, and they've been given a 2-year, I think, transition period to all go into that April to March fold. So that is another thing that has happened well. The CSR, the corporate social responsibility initiatives of the government, has been really laudable. It has come in a very big way, and there are many corporates who are willing to invest in CSR activities. Concept of small companies, 1% companies have also come, which were not there. It is also something which is very good. And of course, rotation of auditors have come. This is one thing which was being discussed only over a long period of time, but it has ultimately now seen the light of the day. Of course, rotation has been restricted to bigger companies like listed companies, and then unlisted public companies having a paid up share capital of 10 crores or more, private limited companies having paid up capital of 20 crores or more, or if their paid up share capital is below the threshold limit, if they have public borrowings from financial institutions, banks, or public deposits of rupees 50 crores or more, then only rotation will be applicable. So generally 95% of the companies, it is expected, will not come under rotation, but the top 4-5% will come under rotation, which is a good thing to happen for the country as a whole. But as you know, that 5% of the top corporates actually control 80 to 90% of the economy, and that the 95% control only 10 to 20% of the economy. So that way, the bigger companies have been put under rotation, which is a good thing to happen, as I said. Apart from these good things, certain issues have come up which the auditors need to report, like reporting of frauds, section 143(12). That is something which is something difficult for auditors. I think it will be a difficult time for auditors as well. In fact, auditors will have to report to the audit committee of the company, and if there is no audit committee, to the board of directors within 60 days of his knowledge of the fraud having been committed on its employees or the company, or even if a fraud is in the process of being committed, he also has to report, which is something I think difficult to digest as such, prima facie. And he has to write to the board or the audit committee and and he'll have to get their explanation also. And if the explanation doesn't come within 45 days, then he has to directly report to the central government. So these are certain difficult provisions, and only time will tell as to how the auditors will have to cope with such provisions. In fact, we had from the Ministry of we had from the institute side, I was the vice chairman of the Corporate Laws Committee last year when these rules were getting framed. In fact, we had also represented to the Law Ministry also on these frauds and all, but it has come all together. As it was in the Act, there was no dilution of the frauds, the section on frauds in the rules. Similarly, limitation of audit, it is 20 per partner. It was 30 now. It has come down to 20, and all companies have been mentioned. And in that section 143, subsection 1, clause G, which deals with disqualification of auditors and says that no single partner or a proprietor can do more than 20 audits. It covers all companies, and since as may be prescribed was not there, we tried to link from the institute side, we tried to link the only rotation companies with that 20. So that only companies which are under rotation, do those audits, only that count of 20 has to be done. But then, since the word as may be prescribed was not there in the Act, the Law Ministry was very firm, they didn't change it. We are contemplating of invoking section 470. There is one section called section 470 of the Companies Act, which says power to remove difficulties, and whether that can be invoked in order to see that that only companies which are under rotation will be covered under that threshold limit of 20 audits per partner or per proprietor. Another good thing also that has happened, I forgot to mention earlier, was that companies are now required to appoint internal auditors. And chartered accountants also, or a firm of chartered accountants also can be appointed as internal auditors. Of course, it is not for the very small companies. There are threshold limits for such companies, but even bigger private companies also, private limited companies also, now the law mandates that there has to be an internal auditor also, who can either be an employee of the company or be an outsider. That means the work can be outsourced to a firm of chartered accountants for conducting internal audit. And a private limited company, as you all know, there were 50 members, it has increased to 200 members now. There could be a max 200 members. So we can have bigger private limited companies. This is also another good thing that has happened. So I thank the chairman once again for, and I also thank the vice chairman of the Corporate Laws Committee for conceiving this idea, having this corporate conclave, the first corporate conclave. In fact, we are going to have